Okay, so let's take a look at 4.3, working with rational exponents. So you can read over this terminology here, but the radical sign, you know, the index is the number that is right in front of the radical sign, and the radicand is the number inside. Now, it's very important to understand that when you take the, let's say, for instance, the square root of 9, you know that the square root of 9 is 3, obviously. But in reality, it's actually plus or minus 3. We discussed this in previous classes. However, there's such thing as the third root of things. Now, how do you know that the square root of 9 is 3? You know the square root of 9 is 3 because 3 times itself is 9. 3 times itself twice. I'm going to put a 2 there, but we don't write a 2 there. It's automatically assumed that there is a 2 there, the square root. If we have something that looks like this, the third root of 27, the third root of 27 would be 3. How do we know that? Because we know 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. That's why the third root of 27 is 3. And so let's take a look at simplifying a couple things so we understand what square roots mean and what these exponent laws are. So if we take a look at, for instance, square root of 36 times the square root of 36. Now, we know that root 36 times root 36 is just 36, right? Because root 36 is just 6 times another 6. The answer is 36. And we should also know that whenever you multiply two roots that are the exact same, that just gets rid of the square root, because in reality when you're doing this, this is like taking root 36 and squaring it, right? That times itself, and the square and the root will cancel each other out. Okay, so the square root of 36 times the square root of 36 is just 36. Now, if we take a look at this problem here, where it says 36 to the power of a half times 36 to the power of a half, if we do that problem using exponent laws, we know that when we are doing multiplication between two bases that are exactly the same, the rule is to keep the base the exact same and add the exponents. Well, a half plus a half is just 1. So you end up with 36 to the power of 1. Now you just write 36. Now, it's very funny that when you do this problem here, you get an answer of 36. Notice they're two of the same thing being multiplied together. The base is 36, the number inside. Multiply it together, you get 36. And over here, it's very funny that you also get a 36 as the answer, and you're multiplying two things that are the exact same. Well, if you're multiplying two things that are the exact same here, and it equals 36, and you're multiplying two of the same things that are the exact same here, and it equals 36, that means that both of these questions were the exact same. See, this root 36 and that root 36 is the exact same as 36 to the power of a half times 36 to the power of a half, which means that root 36 is the exact same as 36 to the power of a half. So that's what I'm going to write over here. 36 to the power of a half just means the square root of 36. Now it's very important you understand that square root, there's actually a 2 out in front of there. We do not write that 2 there, but the 2 does exist there. Okay, and that's the rule I wrote right over here. It says whenever you have a to the power of 1 over n, it is equal to the nth root of a. The nth root of a. Okay? So if I did have something that looked like this, let's say 27 to the power of 1/3, according to that rule over there, this would be the exact same as the third root of 27. And of course, we know the third root of 27 is just 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 is equal to 27. Now it says, in general, finding the square root is the opposite of squaring, and finding the cubed root is the opposite of cubing, etc. So For instance, 3 squared is equal to 9. Well, the opposite operation would be the square root of 9 is equal to 3. 4 cubed is 64, because 4 times itself 3 times is 64. Going backwards though, the cubed root of 64 is 4, because 4 times itself 3 times is 64. Now example number 1, it says evaluate. So evaluate 49 to the power of a half. According to our rule, just remember what 49 to the power of a half means. It means the square root of 49. Now, there's a 2 out in front of there, but we never write the 2 out in front of there. We know that this means square root, so I'm not going to write that anymore. So the square root of 49 is 7. And you can double check that on your calculator. If you did 49 to the power of 1/2 or to the power of 0.5, it would give you 7. Over here, you're going to have negative 27 to the power of a third. And if you do this one according to the rules, this is just the base is negative 27, but the third means the third root of negative 27. Now it's very important that you understand you can actually take the third root of a negative number. You can't take the square root of a negative number because a negative times a negative would be a positive. But you can take this, the cubed root of a negative 27. The cubed root of negative 27 is actually negative 3, because negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9 times another negative 3 is negative 27. Moving along here, we have negative 8 to the power of negative a third. Now there's a problem here on this one, because now not only are we dealing with a third, but we're dealing with a negative third. So we got to apply the rules of yesterday first, and then apply the rules today in order to solve this. So the rules from yesterday was, I'm going to first take care of the negative sign. So not the negative sign of the base, but the negative sign of the exponent. So whenever you have some number to a negative exponent, that is the same as writing 1 over negative 8 to the positive a third, because that's what negative exponent means. Okay, so negative 8 to the negative whatever, it's 1 over negative 8 to the positive that exponent. So that took care of the negative sign. Next, I'm going to take care of that to the power of a third. So this is 1 over negative 8, and that third means the third root of negative 8. Continuing this, obviously we can take the square root, or sorry, the third root of negative 8. This will just be 1 all over negative 2. Why is the third root of negative 8 negative 2? Because negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, times another negative 2 is negative 8. So the final answer would be written with the negative out in front, so it would be negative 1/2. Okay? So it's very important you understand all the rules of yesterday and today. You also have to understand that in order to get full marks here, you're not just going to plug in, negative 8 to the power of negative a third and get negative 0.5 and get full marks there. You must, in order to get all the marks, you must apply all of the rules. That is what you're being tested on. So let's look at example 2. It says, evaluate 4 to the power of 3/2. So it says, hint, think about it as the power of another power. So the power of another power. So we know how to take care of 4 to the power of a half. But how do you take care of 4 to the power of 3/2? Well, this is so that you learn another rule. But essentially what we can think of this as is this. 4 to the power of 3/2 is the same as 4 to the power of a half to the power of 3. Because according to your power of a power rule, if I have something that looks like this is 4 to the half to the 3, and when you multiply this, because it is a power of a power, that's 4 to the power of 3 times a half is 3/2. So I just broke it up to be more simplified so that we can actually complete this problem, because we do know what 4 to the power of a half means. 4 to the power of a half means the square root of 4. And so continuing this, the square root of 4 is just 2, all cubed. And I take care of the cubed at the end. 2 cubed is 8. So the final answer there is 8. Okay? And you can double check that on your calculator by plugging in 4 to the power of 3 over 2. Now it's funny because over here you didn't have to split it up with the half first and the 3 second. You could have split it up with the 3 first and the half second. So you could have taken care of 4 to the power of 3 first, and then to the power of a half, you would still get the exact same answer. Okay? And this is going to help us with our next rule. So our next rule on the next page states that if you have a to the power of m over n, it's the same as the nth root of a to the m. So whether you want to do a to the m first, or whether you want to do this, so another way to write this rule would be